Hello, this is Tim Treloar, and I play the third Doctor Who for Big Finish Productions. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
They all say, who is Doctor Who? Where is he from? What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, the podcast that explores that crazy world of Doctor Who collecting, the collectors who collect, and all kinds of Doctor Who merchandise. And sometimes we just talk about Doctor Who. Great place to do that. Brought to you in part by Bags Unlimited Incorporated and Forbidden Planet. I am Larry Van Mersbergen, your host. I've been collecting Doctor Who now for 42 years. Began in 1981. Welcome to our 63rd episode. Celebrating 60 years of Doctor Who this year. What a ride it's been. If you notice something weird about my voice, I've got a virus that has been attacking my throat, so I have been dealing with that. So I apologize for the late release of this podcast, but that was unavoidable, and so I thought I'd take a chance at recording today. Just to go back in time here, I opened up one of the first Doctor Who stores in Chicago, Illinois, that exclusively served the Doctor Who fans. In other words, I used to take my store to the fan clubs and set up tables just like they do at conventions, and would sell Doctor Who weeklies, Doctor Who annuals, early edition Target books you couldn't get in this country. I had a few toys here and there. You know, it was stuff I imported myself from England. And it eventually grew into a small business called Bundles from Britain, which was wonderful. You know, I was 15 years old. You know, I thought nothing would come of it. And then many, many years later, a book was written called Red, White, and Who, The Story of Doctor Who in America by ATB Publishing, written by wonderful people. And I found my store in there, Bundles from Britain. I'm like, are you kidding me? Made history? Oh, no way. You know, that's just amazing to me. You can get a copy of this book, of course, on the front page of our website, drwhocollectors.com. I just want everybody to have a copy. You know, it's just a wonderful book to have. We don't make any money on it. We want the authors to make money on it. That's the important thing. We are part, of course, of the Direction Point Doctor Who Podcast Network. And if you're not part of our network as a podcast host, you are missing out on gaining audience. That's what the whole idea is here, is my audience has grown quadruple since we started, and that's what's, you know, part of this whole process here, is being part of a group of people that can make that network work for you. Directionpoint.org is the website, and so there you go. You can join other great podcasts such as this one, Time Streams, Police Box in a Junkyard, the Doctor Who Target Book Club, Traveling the Vortex, Doctor Who Literature, and many, many more. Speaking of links, of course, 2 great links that I include on every episode, because you don't have to start with the previous episodes. You can start anywhere you like. And the first one, which I think is very important for collectors, is timelash.com, and underneath that banner, the TARDIS Library. That has a very comprehensive database of Doctor Who items, such as books, videotapes, DVDs, activity books, nonfiction books, and stuff like that, vinyl records, you know, and you can actually set up a free account and create your own collection inventory, which is really nice. I use it quite a bit. You can also set it up for want lists. And our good friend Dan O'Malley, who keeps the site for free with just a little bit of advertising on the bottom banners, not much to get in your way, is that they've got links there to Amazon, sites throughout the world, as well as an eBay search engine built right in. Gotta love it. If you're looking for something more in depth for collecting a database, then you need to go to Howe's Transcendental Toy Box, and that's at drwhotoybox.co.uk. And I was told in England it's co.uk, but I thought I'd say co, so you understand how to put it in your browser. David J. Howe, of course, is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a couple of years, and he's a great resource for collectors. Of course, if you're looking for great Doctor Who items at great prices, look no further than DoctorWhoStore.com, and that's the Alien Entertainment. They have what you need. Always running great sales, always acquiring collections. As of this recording, he had just, the owner, Gene Smith, who was my partner back in the bundles days, had sent me a preview of new hardcovers he had bought from a collection, and I happened to have all of them. So it was nice to get the first. He gives me first grab at any of that stuff. So it's just something we go back 30 years. So. Of course, if you live in the west suburbs of Chicago or Chicago itself, you can select free pickup from the store if you order online. What a great deal. They have two locations, one in Lombard and in Logan Square in Chicago. So visit alienentertainment.com for location and store hours. You can also find some great Doctor Who items at Forbidden Planet, but you don't need to go anywhere. You just go to my website, DoctorWhoCollectors.com, visit the merchandise links, and you can buy from Forbidden Planet directly from them through us. And we get a small portion of that sale. You don't pay more. We just get a little bit from that, and that helps us keep the lights on. In addition to, of course, all the podcasts we post on our website, we have the complete guide to classic hardcover books. We recently got a reach out from Paul Smith, who does a book called Based on a Popular Television Serial, and is asking questions for help on improving his book with our website, which I thought was really, really nice. So we do have some information there from other sources, as well as the unofficial book guide by Chris Stone, the Bundles from Britain catalog, because we were the largest distributor of Doctor Who hardcovers back in the 80s. Not many people knew that. So there you go. Chicago TARDIS 2023, of course, set for next November Thanksgiving weekend. Join us for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who with the best convention in the Midwest. For more information, go to chicagotardis.com, and guest announcements are coming soon. Hotel reservations will be unveiled very soon, so you don't want to miss this one. This one's going to be a big one for the Midwest, because it's an anniversary year, and you know that they're going to be pulling out all the stops, getting as many high-profile people as possible. I keep hoping that they'll get Jodie Whittaker in Chicago. I think that would be amazing. And of course, I know that costs a little more money, but you know what? They can charge a little more money and fill the place, get people in there. So that's an important thing. So what's going on with me? Well, again, I'm also a convention guest. I have appeared at many conventions doing my Doctor Who Collectors showcase or my collecting workshops, and I have been confirmed to be returning to Consinity 2023. That's Saturday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at Dirks Hall at the Milwaukee School of Engineering University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So there you go. Join me there. Not far, about 2 hours from Chicago. And you can check us out there. The Milwaukee Time Lords will be there. So a good shout out to my friends there. I will be presenting a virtual session on Doctor Who gaming and games at Oricon 23, which is a virtual session that will be presented there. It's already on the schedule. I am also a confirmed guest at Doctoberfest 2023 in Indianapolis, Indiana. We will have a dedicated museum room set up so that you can just wander around and ask questions. And I'm working on little placards to provide information on things. So join us in Indianapolis. That will be an in-person convention this year. There will be several other in-person Doctor Who guests there to be announced. They haven't been finalized yet, so I can't talk about it here yet. Of course, I will be back at Chicago TARDIS, so you can check that out at chicagotardis.com. Also, I am confirmed as of now to be a guest at the Twin Cities Console Room in 2024. And that will be presenting the Doctor Who Collecting Workshop as well. I'll be driving up to Minneapolis. And then tentatively, I am planning to be at Gallifrey 1. Every time a bell rings, a weeping angel gets its wings. I'm hoping that the funding will work out. I'm working with sponsors, working with all that to see if we can make that trip happen. That's a very, very difficult trip to make because it's a weekend in Los Angeles from Chicago. Very difficult to make that trip. So there we go. What's new in the collection? Well, I'm always actively looking for things, and sometimes you get nice stuff. I have a very nice ex-library copy of The Visitation. It's not a public library. It was a school library, so there's no marks on the outside at all, and just a single stamp on the inside page. Just almost a mint condition book. So that fills out the 1982 section. I have a collection of items that included the 20th anniversary Radio Times magazine, which you were able to get that in the United States back in 1983, as was distributed by Starlog magazine, and it says so on the front cover. But it was always elusive to me to find the actual Radio Times version, which was only released in England. So now I have that one. There's no difference between the two publications. They're both the same, and it's just nice to have both. Also in that collection was a long sought after copy of the Doctor Who Monster Book, first edition, complete with the poster. I've had several copies over the years that the poster wasn't there. Now I've got one with the poster. So there you go. So the other copies that I have will be on our eBay page very soon, because I don't need 3 copies. Arriving any day now will be a Daypole Dalek playset unopened. It contains 8 Daypole Daleks, some of which you can only get in the set, which is really nice. So that's all for now. Stay tuned. I will be doing another YouTube video of the collection, like in a box. You know, here's what's in this box. Here's what is in this area of the room or outside the room, and that way I can get more of the collection out there so people can see what's going on. People have been very supportive of that. So just check out, go to YouTube, search for the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, or there'll be a link on our website. You can do that. And there we go. I am, by the way, officially closing the door here on a search for the third impression of Space War. There is no evidence that there was a printing. Even Paul Smith, who wrote me the other day, who writes that other wonderful book, says he has absolutely zero evidence of that. As of now, there are 2 impressions of that hardcover, a first and a second. Still a little bit of an argument as to when the second edition came out. Paul Smith suggests 1977. My other information suggests 1979. Both are possible. So, of course, that's how that goes. If you have any leads, of course, or information that leads to conclusive proof of any edition that we don't cover, please send us an email at drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com with the photos. Mostly it's the spine cover, the spine photo for a Wingate reprint, because that shows what was put on the spine. Is it Wingate Longbow, W.H. Allen Longbow, W.H. Allen? There's been no evidence of any of those Wingate titles coming out as W.H. Allen, but also no evidence of any Wingate title after 1975. Excuse me. So that's really important. I love talking to collectors. I'll be setting up some shows with collectors here. So you want to share your story here as a guest host, just contact me at the same email, drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com. On today's show, I will be talking with actor Tim Treloar, and he plays the Third Doctor on Big Finish. And you'll love to hear the story of how he got the part, and who actually kind of made it happen. It was really quite high up the Doctor Who royalty ladder there for someone to bring Tim into the ranks. And of course, Tim and Katie Manning are amazing together. They're both very good friends of mine now. Tim was wonderful. I really enjoyed the conversation. So stay tuned for that. That was a really good talk. Currently, FeedSpot. If you're not on FeedSpot, FeedSpot has us ranked as number 33 at the top 90 Doctor Who podcasts. I wanted to correct that because I accidentally said 23, which would have been nice, but I had actually miswrote it when I was making my notes. We are 33 out of 90, which is still pretty good. I'm very pleased that we made the ranking, because there are a lot of podcasts not on that list. So I'm very pleased for that. I want to thank our patrons. Those are the people that keep the lights on, keep the microphones working, keep the recorder charged up with batteries, and all that wonderful stuff. So if you want to see exclusive video material, including the video interview with Tim Treloar, you can go to our Patreon page, subscribe at the $15 level, or you can subscribe at the $10 level and get 1 day early access to all these podcasts. And also special videos that I do of the collection, special talks that I do, any convention virtual videos that are only done at conventions, I can post on my Patreon page. So just check that out. You can go to patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. If you'd like to support us anywhere else, you can support us at Podbean. We are a Podbean podcast. So drwhocollectors.podbean.com. Click the Patreon button. You can support us at $1 or $100 or $1,000 or $1 million, whatever you feel comfortable with. Our theme song is Who's Doctor Who, composed by Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by our good friend Fraser Hines. You, of course, can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts except for Spotify, but you can also find us at Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Amazon Music, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. We are a Direction Point Network podcast, directionpoint.org. All right. My first segment here on My Time. This is My Time, where I get a chance to talk about anything I want. So before I do that, I'm going to take a little sip of tea here because I want to keep my voice going. I don't stop the microphone for those things. But anyway, I want to talk about just a couple things here about people getting scammed and price gouging, which I've talked about before. That is a process. Basically, price gouging, in my opinion, is a problem in Doctor Who collecting. It is people that buy up entire stocks of Doctor Who items, like maybe B&M figures or vinyl records or things from Sainsbury's or whatever, and then they turn up on eBay at 8 times the price. And that is just unfair to the hundreds and thousands of people that want to collect Doctor Who and want to get these items in their collection or to enjoy them or to play the records or to play with the figures. And you end up spending $500, $600, $1,000 for these crazy people that aren't even, most of the time, they're not even Doctor Who fans. And very few Doctor Who reputable dealers have been in business before the new series. I just want to say, such as the Who Shop of London, Who North America, Alien Entertainment are all 3 stores that have been around since before the new series, and they are very reasonable with their prices. I've even had conversations with Nicholas Briggs from the Big Finish podcast where he said it really did bother him that vinyl records that they had to deal with Sainsbury's ended up on eBay because American people wanted to get those records and they were paying 9 times the price. And I said, well, why don't you guys make a deal with Walmart? And they said they tried, and it's just not the same apparently over here. So, I give them bonus points for trying and for sympathizing. But also, people getting scammed is another thing, too, where you see, hey, I'm going to pay for this wonderful item on Facebook, and they take your money and you never see the item. And, of course, you have no recourse because you don't have any protection from your payment unless you used PayPal purchase protection. But then when you file a claim, you better have proof that you made sometimes the Facebook profile disappears, and so you don't have proof. And it's a really hard thing to do. So I would say, if you're worried about a purchase, if you're worried about, buying something online that you've never bought before, or that, I would say just don't, get a lot of information, get somebody else to say, hey, does anybody know this person? Has anybody bought from this person? There's plenty of Facebook groups, the Doctor Who Target Book group, the Braxiatel Collection, the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast page on Facebook. You can find those and just post a note here's this person's name. Does anybody know this person? The reputable people on Facebook, Elwe this Pagan, David Russell, Dale Santos, all very reputable people. David J. Howe, of course, sometimes sell things. He's very reputable. Those are names I would personally buy from and be certain that you're not going to get scammed. But it's happened. I've read so many posts about, I lost 300 pounds and I lost $200. And I'm like, that is so sad. I mean, that would just really put me in a, and back, of course, in the day when I was collecting Doctor Who in the early part of my life, there was no such thing as Facebook or internet. We did everything via pen pal. I wrote to my friends in England and I said, hey, can you get me a da-da-da? And they said, yeah, I'll look. And then they would basically buy it and they would basically sell it to me for the exact price they paid. Plus I cover their postage and a little bit of their petrol or gas. And I would still get it for an amazing price. And I would mark it up just a little bit to make money and be able to invest more. And, we did it the old fashioned way. That's business 101. That's I didn't buy the entire stock and then charge 8 times the retail. That's just crazy. Of course, you're even buying it retail and you're charging 8 times the retail. You're not even getting it wholesale. That was a nice thing about being a business back in the day, is I bought a lot of things wholesale. I got my TARDIS tin banks for half off because we bought them as part of a order and I was able to buy them from the store at cost. That was really a nice perk, but you don't have to open up a store to enjoy these deals. If you're looking for, rare items, or and people have said, I post a lot of my random thoughts. Anyway, I was on Instagram. Our Instagram page is Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, and some people had actually commented that they're envious of my collection. I said, oh, well, don't be envious. Put in the work. This is 43 years. That's 4 decades of collecting Doctor Who. I didn't start yesterday. I started back in 81, and I didn't even know I was doing it back in 81. I just kind of kept it going, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. It really is. If it makes you happy, then it can't be that bad, according to Sheryl Crow. So that's what it is all about. I do have some wonderful things in my collection, some things that people can't get. My Web of Fear Target book, which only 7 were made. Not bad. I've got a Dennis Fisher TARDIS that's in pretty good shape. The doors broke off, but that's normal for that toy. I do have a Cyberman Dennis Fisher in the box. I've got a couple of good talking Daleks. I've got a remote control K9. I've got some pretty cool stuff. I mean, yeah, I love it. And I'll be sharing all that with you in videos, and being, how can I help you? If you're having trouble finding something, you can always contact me. I'll do my best to keep a lookout for you, but keep in mind, I'm a collector. So, I have friends in those areas. I know people. I've made friends over the years. I've made contacts. I've made network connections. And, I've got favorite eBay sellers. I've got people I know that are legitimate. I've got eBay sellers that aren't even Doctor Who dealers. That, like the guy who in the Netherlands found me the Dutch copy of Doctor Who and the Daleks with the dust jacket. He doesn't sell Doctor Who items. He sells books. Or my friend Kristen at Quirky Queen's Books. She's always looking. She takes in books all the time, but if she gets a Doctor Who book, I'm the first person she talks to. My Radio Times connection has stopped at Kelly's Books. Kelly retired, so I'm always on the lookout for there. I've given my advice, if there's something you want to get a better price on, and it's a buy it now situation on eBay, click add to watch list. Guaranteed within 24 hours you'll get a price break, and you can start negotiating. Because that happens all the time. I get those every day, even the ones I'm watching for research purposes. I get offers, but I don't need to jump into those. So there you go. It's really quite amazing to me that there's so many things going on, and that's just how it is. The Doctor Who collecting. It's a it's a passion run thing. If you love it, keep doing it. I'm not here to make money. One day when I retire, and it will happen one day, when I decide to put the whole collection up for sale and somebody else can enjoy this wonderful collection, and I can put that money towards retirement, which is nice. Or maybe not. Maybe I won't make as much money on it. I don't know what's going to happen. So there you go. Anyway, that is my time for today. And so stay tuned for our most outrageous offer. Of course, we always have that. Our main story, our interview with Tim Treloar, coming up right after these words from Direction Point. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to travel through time with us? Then check out Traveling the Vortex, a Doctor Who podcast. For nearly 7 years and more than 500 episodes, we've traveled from one end of the vortex to the other, making different stops with different doctors, reviewing everything from TV stories to audio plays, from books to comics, and more. Sean, Keith, and Glenn take you on a journey through 50-plus years of Doctor Who episodes and spin-off materials. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, so be sure to check us out. And now, we're a proud member of Direction Point, a Doctor Who podcast network. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
We are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations in publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulke, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Hi, I'm Juliet.
And I'm Nathan.
Experience Doctor Who from the very beginning through a classic fan's eyes.
And through the eyes of a new Who fan.
Reminisce and relive those classic moments with Nathan as he offers fun insight.
Or experience them for the first time with Juliet as she dwells on social issues, history, fashion, and the size of a flashlight.
We're the Time Streams Podcast.
find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Maybe the Brigadier left the taps running.
This is an ocean world.
Oh, I'm not sure I like it. So endless and empty.
Get her some dry clothes.
She doesn't like me.
Don't worry, she doesn't like me either.
Well, that makes me feel a little better. I'm Sarah.
I was curious as to how your little project was coming along.
It's hardly a little project. If we're successful, UNIT will be able to mesh the world's radar stations together into a single advanced early warning system.
I suppose that's useful.
I was listening for the screaming, but then I heard that.
It's at the hatch.
Give us your trauma. Give us your tears.
Doctor, this is insane.
I said I'd never go near this dratted contraption.
They're coming through.
Hold on as if your life depends on it. Because it does.
Up there is the scanner. Those are the doors. That is a chair with a panda on it. Sheer poetry, dear boy.
And now it's time for our main story on the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. When I started watching Doctor Who in September 27th, 1975, and the man that appeared on my screen was Jon Pertwee as Doctor Who, I never stopped watching the show. 48 years later, I still watch the show, and it was just a big impression on me as a young fan. In 1985, I got to meet Jon Pertwee and had a conversation with him, and it was like a dream come true in my life. I bought his book, Moon Boots and Dinner Suits, directly from him, and he signed it in front of me. Sadly, Jon passed away in 1996, but played the Third Doctor not only during the 70s run, but in many appearances after that run. My guest today is Tim Treloar, and he plays the Third Doctor for Big Finish Productions, and I've personally never heard a better voicing of Jon Pertwee's voice than his. Welcome to the podcast, Tim.
Thank you very much, Larry. Thank you very much for having me. And what a lovely introduction.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. So, of course, my first question, did you ever get to meet Jon Pertwee in your life?
Unfortunately, I didn't, no. Obviously, I know quite a bit about him through the likes of Katie and
yes.
and Richard Franklin. But no, sadly, I didn't get to meet him, no. I've met quite a few of the other doctors, having worked with them. Tom Baker and Colin Baker, and, Paul McGann, Sylvester McCoy. I've got quite a few connections with doctors. Actually, my first agent, her grandfather was William Hartnell. And my first theatre job for the Royal Shakespeare Company was with David Troughton.
Oh, wow, yes. Yeah, so you've got those connections, absolutely. Yeah. My meeting with Jon Pertwee was completely accidental. In '85, we had this large convention here in Chicago called TARDIS 22, and there were 20 Doctor Who guests that were invited to this thing. It was the first big event ever done, and I had a shop here called Bundles from Britain. So I used to sell Doctor Who items, and we had a table at the convention. And of course, Saturday morning, the doors opened, and the first person through the door was Jon Pertwee. And he walked right up to our table and looked down and said, "Look at all this stuff." And it was and picked up a copy of Cave Monsters and held it up and said, "Do you think the likeness is good?" And just kept and went on we were just, of course, I should let you know, my partner at the time, you know very well, it was Gene Smith.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So we're both standing there with our jaws on the floor with Jon Pertwee in front of us. And then it lasted about 5 minutes before his handler found him and said, "Mr. Pertwee, you've got an autograph session that started without you." And he's like, "But I want to," but he's like, "But I want to see here. I want to see this." He's like, later. So they dragged him out, and I still have that copy of the book that he sold me here, and it's a wonderful book. I know I sent you the title to add to your reading list a while back, but it is one of the most. There are so many funny stories in here. His career started with nobody could pronounce his name. And in the opening line here, he said he kept being called Jan, and he's like, "Who's Jan?" And they said, "Yeah, you, Jan Putrid."
And, so he had quite a bit of those stories. But let me just ask right away: how did you develop the voice of the Third Doctor? Because I've listened to it, and I'm like, sometimes I'm closing my eyes and I cannot distinguish if it could have been Jon Pertwee speaking it or you speaking it. So how did you develop that?
Well, it came from my first ever job for Big Finish. Actually, was in Destination Nerva, which
yes,
Fourth Doctor story with Tom Baker, and I was playing a Victorian zombie lord, an imperialist who was out there conquering space for the British Empire, as you do, and so I had this sort of quite sort of very sort of posh voice for him, very sort of fair, because he was quite evil. But I thought instead of doing a moustache twirling villain, I thought I'd do something more dastardly and quite sort of light. And Tom said to Nick during the recording, he said, "Who is he? He sounds like someone. He sounds like someone." They couldn't work it out, and then suddenly during the middle of the recording session, she went, "It's Jon! It's Jon! It's Jon!" So wow. it came from that, really, and then eventually here I am today, after having been asked, I think in 2014, to start doing the Third Doctor, which was, I think, their first recast. It was felt that a respectful time had passed.
Yes.
And so obviously I've developed it from then by watching videos and listening to clips. And so I'm always still, every time I record a Third Doctor episode, I'm always looking for new little nuances and new approaches to the character, trying to find the softness at certain times, and just trying to recreate somehow that wonderful voice of his. I'm not an impressionist.
Right.
So I'm well aware it's not an exact replication, and I probably wouldn't want it to be, because I think if you try and exactly replicate someone's voice, then you lose the acting as well. So
right.
It's more the essence of his voice and of his Doctor that I'm trying to tap into. So yeah, that's it, really.
Wow. That's incredible. And of course, I know it's not, to be, and you're right, to be exact would be, would lose some of what you put into the roles. And I've listened to many of the adventures where you voice the role. And it's really quite, for me, of course, Jon was my Doctor growing up, and I still have a strong connection to that. So, of course, how did you get in with Big Finish in the first place?
Well, I was at a party, I think, in a park, and John Dorney, writes Big Finish and script edits and acts in some of the productions. He was, I think, a couple of years above me in drama school, and he came up to me and said, "You won the Carlton Hobbs competition, didn't you?" A Carlton Hobbs competition is a competition run by the BBC Radio Drama Company for new graduates, and I was lucky enough to be one of the winners of it, which gave me a 6-month contract with BBC Radio.
Nice.
And so he said, "Oh, we must get you in for Big Finish." And a few months later, I got my agent called me and said, "Would you like to be in Destination Nerva?" So with Tom Baker, which was great because he was my Doctor, Tom.
Yes.
So that was a buzz, obviously, meeting him for the first time and doing that. And it came from there. It's just sort of snowballed, and I've been very lucky. And it's all about chance, isn't it? And luck and right time, right place, and all that sort of stuff.
Usually is. That's how when I meet wonderful people like yourself, it's usually because I'm happen to be where I'm at and say, "Oh wow, hey," and of course it also helps that Lauren Cornelius was a big advocate for me. So that was she and I connected a few years ago, and it was really nice to meet you all. And by the way, it was meeting you at Chicago TARDIS. What was your impression of that convention?
Oh, I loved it. I went before in 2000.
Yes.
And obviously we had COVID and stuff after that.
Right.
And going back was wonderful. Fantastic. I always love these conventions. I love doing that. I love meeting people there and being around the fans. And it's just such a warm and friendly and generous environment, and particularly in the States. It was particularly generous there.
Oh, well, that's great. It's my home convention. I've been part of that for many years.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful place to be. And just having just going into Big Finish Island in the dealer's room is a really amazing thing.
And being in Chicago, it's a lovely, beautiful city. I spent a long time, well, not long, I spent about a week after the last convention exploring Chicago, having some of your famous pizza pie there.
Oh, yes.
So that was great. In fact, at the last convention, someone bought some pizza and they said, "Oh, Tim, do you want some pizza?" I said, "I'd love to, but I'm gluten-free now."
Oh, yeah.
But I cheated on that particular occasion. I couldn't resist.
You can't eat a Chicago pizza if you eat a knife and a fork, and you're in heaven. It's a great thing. It's one of the reasons I love living. I've lived here my whole life. It's just a wonderful thing. Let's see. Of course, I've actually known Katie Manning since 1985. We've kept in correspondence ever since then, and so she's such a dynamic person. But how was it working with her?
Oh, it's just wonderful. I mean, she's a ball of. She's just a firework. She's that never stops going.
Yeah.
She's just a wonderful person. She's so just gentle and generous of spirit. She's such a giving, loving woman, and she's been such an ally and a wonderful help for me, encouraging me and telling me stories about Jon. On particular lines, she'll look at me and say, "Oh, he would do it like using this gesture," because obviously I know we're on audio. However, you still have to put some sort of physical acting into that. So there'll be either hands on hips or the tap on the chin and the folded and the musing and the hand behind the neck. So she'll help you with that. She's just wonderful, and she's just a massive ball of life, isn't she?
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes. I know. She of course, just when I got to know her back, she came to the convention in the 80s and she gave me her home address and said, "Write me." So I did. Yeah. And then as years and technology improved, we follow each other on Twitter now. So we write Twitter messages back and forth. And of course, every time she comes to Chicago, she makes time to spend with me, which is really nice. So it was really great. She's just, and of course she wasn't, she was my first Doctor Who episode was The Mutants Part 1. That was, Chicago showed them out of order. Nobody sent them a program guide or anything. They just sent the film and said, "Okay, this is the order we got them in." So they showed them Mutants, and then they went to Ambassadors of Death, and then they went to Inferno. Yeah. So we got Katie Manning on the first volley, and it was just an amazing pairing, those two for Doctor Who. I think even though I love Carol and John too, she was great, and Liz Sladen later, but the Joe Grant years, and now of course the third Doctor's popularity is even more strong with the new release of that Blu-ray series that just came out or just announced. Starting with Day of the Daleks and Curse of Peladon and some of these great stories that have been remastered and recolored and redone. And Katie just did a wonderful trailer for that. And of course, that means more people are, and I know this from talking with Jason at Big Finish, that the Third Doctor Adventure series that you're part of is a very popular series.
Yes, that's great for me. Long may that continue. And of course, and The Mutants is one of the stories that I use to get into the voice. I've got several clips on my phone that I'll go into on the studio because that's a great story. I mean, my favorite is The Demons.
Oh yeah, that's also a good one.
So The Mutants I know very well, and it's great that the Third Doctor is so popular. It means that we keep making new stories, which is fantastic. I think we're going to record another one in a month or so. I'm going to see Katie. I think she's doing Gallifrey. I'm doing LA Gallifrey.
Yes.
A week. I think she's going to that. So I'll have her hanging around me for about 4 days. You'll get word in edgeways.
You'll be awake for the whole weekend. My favorite Jon Pertwee story is Day of the Daleks. And one of the reasons is that he has one of the greatest lines that he ever delivers as he becomes the Time Lord in that episode when he finds out that it's a a temporal paradox, and he says, "You're trapped in a temporal paradox, you know, he's like shaking his fist at him. It's like, now I got to fix this because you messed this up. And it's like this, I'm on this. And of course he stands with that cape and the tuxedo. It's just one of the reasons I thought, wow, that is the Doctor. He really came out and of course on January 1st, 1970, the very first issue of Radio Times that came out was him on the cover. This is the actual Radio Times. And so he came out in full color. Not the first time. I mean, Patrick Troughton was on a cover color in '68, but this was a pretty amazing thing because on the listing, and it's hard to show on the screen, but it says color, new series in bold letter because Doctor Who is the first time in color. You know, we regenerated so hard it came into color, and it was really quite something. And of course, his image then became very iconic. The first book released was the Auton Invasion by the late Chris Achilleos, did his image there. And of course, his marketing even continued. This is, I don't even know if you're aware of this gem here, but this is the Jon Pertwee Book of Monsters.
Oh no,
it's not a Doctor Who book. It's his musings on monsters. And so this came out I think just a couple of years before his passing. But did you ever get to listen to, he kind of did something unique. John was part of a couple of radio broadcasts that were kind of pre-Big Finish, The Paradise of Death and The Ghosts of End Space. And he did them the same year he passed away. It was like his last appearance as the Doctor. Have you ever heard those? That's the.
I haven't heard them. I'm aware of them.
Yeah, they just came out with a vinyl collection of those, and of course, Nicholas Briggs and Elizabeth Sladen are in the. Oh, no, sorry, not Nicholas Briggs. Nicholas Courtney. I was trying getting my Nicholases mixed up. We're in that as well, and it was his. It turned out to be his last appearance as the Doctor, and actually gave and it kind of made the idea for Big Finish a few years later, because in '99 they came out with all the Big Finish stories. Yeah. So one of the people you work with who also does an amazing voice is John Colshaw. Yes. And one of the things about the Third Doctor is that the Third Doctor and the Brigadier are inseparable during those years. So of course, when I heard the first time when you and John Colshaw were interacting, I thought, man, we are back in time. We are back to that era. So it was very moving for me. So I was wondering if you got the same reaction from fans about those interactions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When it was announced that John was, because over here, John is famed as just a world-class impressionist, but he's also a very fine actor as well.
Yes.
Which helps. And it wouldn't have been enough if he was just an impressionist doing it. He's actually a brilliant actor as well. And lovely.
Yeah. He's got the voice really dead on. I mean, it's
amazing. He's amazing. He's just amazing. He loves doing the voices. You just say, oh, do this voice, do Donald Trump, or do this one. And he's happy to do it. He recorded in fact. I couldn't go to my friend's birthday party. It was his 50th. And I got John to record an apology in Donald Trump's voice to my friend, which was just wonderful. I mean, it was wonderfully. I felt like I feel a bit cheeky asking you, John, but this will make his day. And he went, oh yes, of course. What else do you want me to do? Do you want me to do it again? He's so giving. He's just a lovely, and he's full of. We're always laughing, John and I, in the studio.
Yeah, that just sounds like you guys have amazing chemistry when you work together, and that's really something, and it's really. When I look forward to those stories. So I got to ask, since we're on the Collectors Podcast, do you have any Doctor Who items in your home?
Yes, I do. You mean original ones? Okay. Well, let me think.
I mean, besides your comp copies of CDs, I know you got those.
I've got some artwork that's been given to me from various artists who have illustrated for Doctor Who. I got a plate from Sergeant Benton.
Oh, John Levine.
John Levine. Yeah. he we were at the studio once, and we were having lunch, and I hadn't finished my lunch, and he took my plate away from me in his excitement to help out and to clean up. I was, "Yeah, what are you doing? I'm finished." And I think he thought I was serious, which I wasn't. I was just messing. And the next week, a friend of mine was doing a play near where John lives, and she came back with this plate saying, "I'm so sorry, Doctor. Here's your plate back." On the ring. So that's in my with it's signed. The actual plate was signed.
Yeah.
That's at home. Yeah. What else? I think I've got bits and pieces. I mean, I'm not at home. If I was at home now in my my
Oh,
room,
sure.
I would go, "Oh yeah, I've got that.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got a few, not as many as you have, clearly.
Oh, well, one of my prize things, it's hard to see, but on the wall over here, this is the original artwork by Frank Bellamy for the 71 Radio Times cover for Day of the Daleks.
Wow.
And I managed to get a hold of that. The other Jon Pertwee thing that's very hard to find is his first annual.
Oh wow! Look at that.
This came out in 1969, late 69, early 70. When
it's got 60, it's got the 60s all over it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's pink and it's wonderful. It's these are very, very sought after. A lot of the stuff from his era is now extremely collectible. I've got puzzles, and I'm considered one of the largest Doctor Who collectors in the country. I'm not sure if that's true, but David J. Howe says so. So I thought I'll take him. Wow. He's the biggest collector in England.
Have you got enough room? Have you got a massive house?
I have a good sized house. This is my room, though. I'm limited to this room, so
okay. You have to,
I don't want it to spill. I don't want it to spill out. But
no.
It's really it's been fun. I've been collecting since 1981, and I started the first thing I ever bought was a book called Day of the Daleks, of course, the Target book.
Yes.
And I got one of the last things that Chris Achilleos did for me is he did a print of the cover and signed it to me, and I realized he did it 1 month before he died. So it's really meaningful to me. And in fact, in a few episodes, I have his widow Tasha Achilleos will be on the program to talk about his artwork, and because he drew all those. I mean, like the Auton invasion. I'll put that back up for the viewers here. He drew the artwork that basically sold these books.
Yeah.
And this came out in 74. So this is, I was, we didn't even get Doctor Who items in the United States until 1980, 81.
Is that one of the Target books?
Yeah.
I used to have, at Christmas,
yeah.
I remember I had some of they were all the Tom Baker ones.
Yeah.
And I think they just disappeared. And I had the Doctor Who annuals as well. But they've disappeared in the mists of time and various moves and house moves and things like that. I wish I still had them because I'd get them all.
Oh yeah. Actually, well, one of my I just had Peter Purvis on the program not long ago, and I asked him the same question, and I'll share the story again since you haven't heard it. But I said, "Did you ever take anything with you from the?" He said, "Yeah, I did," and then I threw it away. And he said he actually owned the Trilogic game from the Celestial Toymaker.
Really?
Yeah,
he actually had the rights to
it. Yeah, the actual game. Yeah, he got to take it home. The designer said, "Yeah, we're just gonna chuck it." So yeah, go ahead. He said it was all hand carved wood pieces and all that. And he used to play it in the corner of his home, but then he attributed it to he got essentially fired from Doctor Who with a new producer, and then he had trouble getting work. And so he kind of attributed that Trilogic game to the curse of not getting work. So he threw it away, and the very next day he got called for Blue Peter.
Oh well.
So,
wow.
So he said it's absolute rubbish that I thought that way, but I had to tell him that if he had kept it, he probably could have retired on it.
Yeah, he probably could have, exactly. Yeah.
But that's really something. Well, let's go ahead and when I was doing my research for this interview, I realized you have been in so many TV projects that I've watched, and I had to go rewatch them. So you were in Foyle's War, A Touch of Frost, Inspector Lewis, Midsummer Murders, Silent Witness, Father Brown, Call the Midwife, and one of my favorites, Why Didn't They Ask Evans? So
I haven't seen that yet, actually.
Oh, it's very good. It's very good. And the title confused me for the first 2 episodes, and then I finally got it at the very end, and I thought, but of course I went back and rewatched a bunch of these, and I thought, man, of course, I've I've seen you in so many different things. Did you have a favorite TV project?
Oh, that's a very hard question. I've done some. I couldn't single out one really. But I mean, I've done things like I did a Nordic noir, the sort of the Scandi dramas, and I got flown out to Oslo and then to the West Indies, which was fantastic. Playing an assassin in that was great fun. It's very hard to sort of pinpoint one down. Actually, I've a lot of fun in a lot of them. It depends on the part as well. If it's
sure,
if it's a nice meaty part, that does help. And if you feel that you're part of the production and you're there for days on ends as opposed to just going in for 1 or 2 days,
right?
But I mean, my bread and butter really is theatre.
Okay.
Theatre is where I've worked. I mean, sadly, because obviously the money's not as good. But,
right. Yeah.
But you're working for longer periods of time, which is a bonus. And you're, I'm a classically trained actor, so
right.
Theatre, I guess, is the obvious thing I was going to be doing. But yeah, I've had a charmed career. I've had down times but a lot of good times, and obviously COVID has put paid to a lot of work. We're still recovering from that, obviously. But yeah, it's just good to be working. To be honest, when you're not working, it's pretty horrible because you sort of validate yourself by being asked to do work for people. So it's a tricky career. It's difficult, but it's how you manage it, I think, in your head, and just to accept the fun times. I for instance, I kind of fell out of love with theatre for a few years for various reasons, and then not working in theatre for 2 years with COVID, suddenly getting another job last year, theatre, I suddenly found my love again of it. So that was very, that was a very happy thing for me to rediscover that sort of passion for theatre and stuff. But I just love to work,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have friends who became actors, and the first thing they always come back and say is that, do something else, because this is a very difficult profession, because it's feast or famine, and sometimes more famine than feast.
Yeah.
And I've had the same. You've said the same thing that Peter Purvis told me, because he was an actor in the '60s, and he said it was even harder. And then of course I talked with Sadie Miller, who graduated drama school and then went to work at a call center.
Yeah.
Because I always think of Patrick Swayze, who waited tables, in this country before he got anything. And but it's really something to hear that, because you clearly love what you do. And I always thought theater actors should be paid more than TV actors, because it's harder work. You got to memorize more lines. You don't get retakes, things like that. And so that's wonderful. I'm going to move to your Big Finish stories. You already talked about Destination Nerva, which was your first Big Finish appearance. And then you actually did one with Sylvester McCoy called Gods and Monsters.
Yes.
Which you played the Ancient One.
Yes.
So that was fun. And then you worked with, you were in The Burning Prince with Peter Davison.
Yes.
You played the Lord President in Dark Eyes with Paul McGann. And then you did get to work with Peter Purvis in The Return of the Rocket Men.
That's right. Yeah, just Peter and I. That was
right.
Great.
Yeah, I thought and Peter is such an amazing guy. I had a long conversation with him, and I just learned so much about. The first question I asked him was, okay, your first appearance in Doctor Who was a Dalek story. So how are the Daleks? He goes, oh, they were absolute rubbish. He's like, when you rehearse, it's a guy. The Dalek it's a half guy. And so there's no terror. There's no fear. He says it's hard. And they take up more studio space than, it's like 3 feet of space, and they take up all of it. So he said it was just, terrible, but
he is lovely, Peter. I mean, that was another joy, because obviously I grew up with Blue Peter, and him and John Noakes and Valerie Singleton and Leslie Judd, they were sort of my era. So when I found out I was doing a two-hander with Peter Purvis, I was like, wow, you're Peter Purvis. It's very rare I get starstruck,
and
someone you grew up with, you get starstruck because you go, God, you're such a big part of my youth. And I was just so delighted when after the recording he said, you fancy going for a pint? And it was wow, we're going for a pint with Peter Purvis. It's
I've had that experience myself at Chicago TARDIS when I was there late at night. And I went into the bar and I sat down, and then somebody sat next to me, and I look over and it's Peter Davison. So so he's like, so I said, "Can I buy you a beer?" He goes, "Please do."
Please do. Yes.
And we had a great conversation. It was and just about, not even about Doctor Who or work, just to talk, and just to have that opportunity. And of course, I in looking through the Big Finish catalog, it looks like the first, according to what I know, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, the first time you did the Third Doctor was a piece called "Light at the End."
Yes,
and
I had a couple of lines.
A couple of lines.
Yeah,
but that was your first entry. This is the CD. They also did a very nice vinyl edition of that, and it's very, very nice. This one, I think this one's signed by most of the people on the front cover here.
Yeah,
it is. So just amazing stuff, and of course that's one of my favorite stories. You had, of course, then that's when I think you become an official Doctor at this point. You are now the Doctor. You were playing.
No, not like at the end. Not like to the end. No, that was they wanted to put in as many Doctors as possible. So I think they put in a couple of lines. And at that point, obviously, because I wasn't playing the Doctor, and with a couple of lines, it's very hard to do anything with.
Right.
So what happened was, the actual being asked to be, it was David Richardson, who's one of the producers. It's a Big Finish. I was in New York, weirdly, doing a theatre show. I was doing a job with Frank Langella.
Oh wow!
King Lear in New York, and I got a phone call one January morning, and it was David Richardson. Hi, how do you fancy playing the Third Doctor? Well, what? I went, and because I was in New York and all that, I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, just let me know when you got everything sorted, and we'll talk about it. And I forgot about it, and then suddenly, my agent rang and said, "Oh yeah, so you're going to go do a Big Finish production in a couple of weeks' time?" And suddenly I was like, "Oh my God, playing the Third Doctor? What?" And it was just complete panic. So obviously I went hell for leather doing the research, and Big Finish made the genius, came up with the genius idea of, instead of just the recast as the Third Doctor, I played a narrator. I narrated the story, and then would do the voice, almost like as though you're doing an audio book or something like that. So that was a sort of gentle way in of testing the waters and getting fans' reactions. And luckily the fans, by and large, were, because obviously I understand the reticence about recasting a well-beloved actor who's very iconic, and that's understandable. People being a bit concerned about that, but I've been very lucky actually with the reaction, and I think if I thought about that too much, I think I might have got cold feet.
Right. Yeah, because the reaction is very positive. And in addition to yourself on that, Fraser Hines did the Second Doctor and William Russell did the First Doctor.
Yes.
So that's and I know William has done an amazing job. And of course now Stephen Noonan does the First Doctor, and he's brilliant at it. Absolutely. And Michael Troughton has taken over playing his father. So that's and of course Fraser does a great Patrick Troughton. He's a good voice himself. And it's one of my favorite stories, Light at the End. But you've got a lot of accomplishments with Big Finish, so I'm gonna fast forward to the meat and potatoes here, so to speak. The Third Doctor Adventures. That's this one here. Sorry, this is the I think this is the first one.
I think it's the first one, unless it's been repackaged.
Oh, maybe. Maybe not. This is Conspiracy in Space, The Devil's Hoofprints.
Oh, that's fairly recent.
It's recent. Okay, yeah, because I got this one also with Robert Dawes too. Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, I liked him in.
Great. I love doing The Devil's Footprints because that's a story I remember from one of those old sort of ghost annuals I picked up at a charity. And I remember reading about the Devil's Footprints. It did actually happen. This story about these footprints going over roofs and into ridiculous places. So I love doing that particular story.
Yeah, I listened to it. It was very, very, very good. And of course, you've also got the talents of Katie Manning and Sadie Miller and John Colshaw, along with some other very good actors in here. Just an amazing. And of course, I'm reading here 8 volumes of Third Doctor Adventures. that
I
came
think it's
out.
now 10.
It's now 10. Yeah, there's
I
no
think
more
so.
because
I
now
think it's 10.
we've got the Annihilators coming out, the Return of Joe Jones, and one title that hasn't been titled yet. It's
Right. Oh,
yeah.
that's because we haven't recorded that. Because the Annihilator should be out now. I think
Yeah,
there
it
was
is.
plans-
It is.
the
Annihilators
plans-
is out.
Joe
And-
Jones is about to come out, isn't it? I think.
Yes, the Return of Joe Jones is about to come out, and I think they're taking pre-orders on this, what they call to be announced.
Oh,
So that's even better. So yeah, it's so definitely with that many box sets and more to come. I think you're going to be set for a while here with Big Finish.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it's great. I mean, unfortunately, we only get a chance to record, say, 2 box sets a year, probably.
Right.
And then I'm going to do another sort of random story. So, yeah, it's. I'd like to do more. I'd like to do, but unfortunately,
well, it is.
There are other things to consider.
True. Yeah,
And,
they're
I love being in the studio. It's a joy to be in somewhere where being, if you like, sort of the principal cast. Whoever is the companion at the time, and I love all 3 of them dearly. And was John. We get to sort of create the culture and with Nick Briggs, obviously, we get to create the culture of the working environment. And that means it's always going to be naughty and it's always going to be fun and it's always going to be irreverent. So that's joyful as well. You know that you can go in and create a happy environment for people. And Nick Briggs facilitates that so well. Sometimes I'll go in tired or with a hangover or something like that. He'll start making me laugh. And then the next thing is we're having just a lot of fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, no, Nick's a great guy. He's come to Chicago a couple times, and we've had some great conversations with him. Now, as far as your other work here, do you have a new TV project you're working on, or anything that's coming out soon?
Yeah, there's something coming out in the next on BBC the next month or two, I think, called Wolf, which is based on some novels. It's about a policeman, as well as solving the crimes. He's got a personal story involving his family, and my character mirrors that because I've got a personal story involving a family member. I don't know. I'm a bit scared about how much to say that I get.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
it's called Wolf. I mean,
Wolf.
It's a 6-episode thing. I think it's going to be brilliant. I think it looks really brilliant, really dark. And I'm in 4 of 6 episodes. I've been in a couple of scenes in each one, but that was a lot of fun doing that. And I'm doing a couple of movies at the moment, just a couple of small parts.
Okay.
Playing what I usually play in movies, which is policemen, or detectives. So that's something I'll be doing this January. And then. Yeah, next thing I think is Gallifrey. I think that's my next
February. Yeah,
my next bit of work, and then just hope the year unfolds with something.
I hope so too. Yeah, because that'll be fun. I've been kind of looking forward, and unfortunately now with Acorn TV and BritBox here in the United States, we get a lot of those things faster than we used to. It used to take years before. Programs would come over. And I will say, since you mentioned playing detectives, one thing England does is they do detective shows very well.
Yeah, what's that? Go to America.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's America. I mean, I grew up on Kojak and Columbo.
Yes,
and
yes.
Starsky and Hutch, Chicago. Is that Chicago, Starsky and Hutch?
It might be. It might be.
Boston? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I watched that when I was a kid. Starsky and Hutch and Columbo, and I still love Columbo and all the great detectives of America. But I've been a big fan of Inspector Morse, Inspector Lewis, Dalgleish. Now I hope they get you on a Death in Paradise sometime.
I'd love to. Yeah. Oh God, film over there. Film in the oh my God, that would be amazing. I think I've auditioned for it once, but I didn't get it. But yeah, so I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be a great job.
I know because Peter Davison talked about being on one. And he said it was great because they got to spend a week in the Caribbean. So it was
amazing. I better still, if you could insist not to fly, that you have to take a cruise ship out there, that would be even better, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, just because what a fun job. It's one of my favorite go-to shows when I want to feel good, because Death in Paradise is a really good show. So many great stuff. So Tim, how can fans find you on social media? Do you have a public persona?
I'm on Twitter. Gosh, do you know what? Because I do look at Twitter, but Twitter's such a it's a cesspit, isn't it?
It can be.
It can be a cesspit, but I'm only on it to connect with Doctor Who fans, actually.
Right.
So it's at Tim Treloar 99, I think.
Okay, we'll check that and make sure it's correct on the ads. So no problem, because I've got you. I follow you on Twitter, so I know we've.
Oh, do you? Do I follow you?
Yeah, I think so.
I do.
Either the podcast or myself personally. I'm pretty sure we follow each other.
Okay, if not,
we'll fix that.
Remind me. Yeah, remind me if I have.
No problem.
I'm not pretty good with my social media. That's something that actors are meant to do now. Instagram and things like that. I'm just the wrong generation, I think.
That's tough for me too. I think we're close to that. Close in age as far as that goes, because I did not grow up with that. I started. I was born in the late '60s, so it was
me too.
So that was my.
What year were you born?
I was 69.
I'm 68. Damn.
Oh, so we're the exact same generation. Okay. Oh, that's wild. Yeah, I've been and I
Generation X, we call it.
Yeah, Generation X, and of course I'm not a slave to my phone, so that's
I am now because of work.
Well, because of work, right. I'm a teacher by day job.
Okay, my parents were teachers.
Oh, fantastic.
So, probably that's why I rebelled and become an actor.
Oh, wow. It's funny because I'm a music teacher, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you a quick story. When I went to college, I had two friends in the music department during my time at Illinois State University, and they both became very well-known actors now. So one is Craig Robinson.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And the other
was in American Office.
Yes, American Office, and the other one was Sean Hayes.
Sean Hayes. No, I know that name.
Sean Hayes played. He was in Will and Grace.
Okay, right. Yeah, I've not really watched. I know the name.
He's more of a
as well. Craig Robinson was in Doolittle as well. I was in Doolittle.
Yeah. He's
in that as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a music major in college. So yeah. And I happened to be classmates with him. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. I love him in the Office.
He was great in the Office, and
that's my go-to. That's my go-to. You know, you said that Death in Paradise. You're going. The American Office is my
American Office.
Netflix go-to. If I just want something in the background, something light. And Steve Carell is just incredible.
Oh, he's amazing, and he did his comedy training in Chicago.
Did he?
Yeah, Second City.
That's my girlfriend keeps saying, "Oh, when you go to Chicago, you've got to go to this improv."
Yes,
there. I mean,
Second City. That's where he actually worked with Stephen Colbert at Second City. They were both, and of course, they were both on the Daily Show later. So that was it. Yeah. So Chicago's produced a lot of great. A lot of great actors, a lot of great people in comedy, and of course, it's been a hub. It's been a big hub for Doctor Who since the early '80s. When we had the very first big convention here in the early 80s, that's where, when Gene and I were together in that business, he started thinking about how he would do things. And that's why he runs Chicago TARDIS now. So it's a lot of, and what a great time. My guest today is Tim Treloar, who voices the Third Doctor for Big Finish, and you can find all of his recorded work at bigfinish.com. And when you call them, tell them you heard about it on the Doctor Who Collectors podcast. Tim, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
You're welcome. And thank you so much. Listeners, stay tuned for the most outrageous offer.
The vervoids are probably the best dirty joke in Doctor Who.
They're hermaphroditic plants.
A lot of plants are.
So there you go. It's based on science.
No, they'll ship anything.
There are probably 11 and handle shippers out there. You just have to drill a hole where his mouth is, and you're all set.
You know he needs the room. I've seen it in pictures.
I'm not saying you're not a fan. I'm saying you don't know what the f*** you're talking about.
Doctor Who gives a a drunken Doctor Who podcast for the end times.
You were invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson, Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors podcast. Keep collecting.
Hi, I'm Rupert Booth.
I am known as Paul Ferry.
And my name is Barry Williams. Together, we host Time Ram.
Time Ram's a cruel mistress.
It's a random number generator.
That also.
We roll a number from 1 to 13, and that's our Doctor. Then 1 to 300 for the story, and then we ram them together. Even if it doesn't make sense.
Cruel, I tell you.
Time Ram, putting the wrong Doctors in the wrong stories, so you don't have to. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Hwitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Fitz-Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast on the Direction Point Podcast Network. Keep collecting.
All my travellings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
And now it's time for the most outrageous offer. Okay, so if you hear my voice, I said so in the introduction, it's a little bit different from my interview with Tim Treloar because that was pre-recorded, but I have a virus that kind of attacked the throat, so it's giving me a little bit of a vocal issues, but stay with me here. I'm talking about a book now that was a book called The Doctor Who, The TARDIS Handbook, the official guide to the best ship in the universe by Steve Tribe. And one of the, it's a, just the TARDIS Handbook. I don't have one of these. I actually am going to get one. I should get one anyway. Anyway, it was released on May 2010 by BBC Books in hardcover. It was also issued in Russia, by the way, in July 2018. Prior to that, or after that, and also in hardcover. And very interesting stuff. So it's about everything you need to know about the TARDIS. The original price of the book, I believe, I don't have that information, but I do have an outrageous offer here. There's an eBay seller here with the buy it now thing here. It's ZBK International with 99.1% positive feedback, which means not 100. There's some things there. The book is being asked, the selling price here is $999.99. Now, here's what's interesting is after I discovered this, I wrote to the seller and I said, "Hey, welcome to the most outrageous offer. Are you sure you want to sell this?" He goes, "Thanks for letting me know. We'll fix it." Well, that was 2 weeks ago. I let this sit for 2 weeks. It's still up there at $999.99. So definitely don't want to buy it there. I did go to abebooks, abebooks.com. And the TARDIS Handbook can be bought used for $5.19. So there you go. You can still get that. It's a hardcover edition, good condition. You can also get it on Thrift Books. I found a copy that's in really good shape, very good condition for $4.79. That's within the United States. So it's not a book you need to spend a lot of money on, and that's crazy. I mean, that, this is what bugs me. Is like I even wrote to the guy and they said thanks for catching it, and then they didn't do it. Other eBay auctions have this book at $4.09 or $4.26 or $5.42. So not a book that needs. It's not apparently not that rare, and it has 128 pages. It's not it's not a high collectible. It's not something that only a handful were made or a bunch were destroyed in a warehouse fire, which is another thing I want to talk about soon, is that the whole Wheel in Space Target thing, which, yeah, a bunch of them were lost in a fire, but the hardcover editions were in a different warehouse. So people are charging huge money for the hardcover, and it's not that rare. It's actually all those copies survived. So there you go. Again, whenever if you see a Doctor Who item out there that is priced way too high for the pocketbook, shoot us a link at DoctorWhoCollectorsPodcast@gmail.com. I do get those daily, and I check them all out. We vet everything. I want to make sure I can find it for a little less. If I can't find it for less, then it might be the right price. So, I'm not calling out all prices as outrageous, just the ones where I can get one for $5 and someone's selling it for $1,000, which is crazy. So there you go. Doctor Who, the TARDIS Handbook. These links will be on our website for this podcast. You can check it out for yourself. And just in case it comes down, I also have a screenshot. So there you go. Well, that wraps up this episode for the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I want to thank my guest, Mr. Tim Treloar, who plays the third Doctor for Big Finish. What a great conversation that was. I really enjoyed talking to him. So there you go. So as far as what's coming up next, our next episode will be a wrap-up of Gallifrey 1, which was Galley 33 and a third, the 33rd year of Galley 1. And of course, joining me is my most frequent guest, Miss Katie Haynes, the great cosplayer of Dr. 13. Talks about her interactions with Jodie Whittaker and with other of my friends, including my friends Tony Lee and David Howe and all that. It was just really quite fun. So we'll see you then. And of course, coming soon, later on the podcast, we will have, of course, that interview with Tasha Achilleos and the ultimate question, will the shop reopen? So you'll just have to stay tuned. Until then, keep collecting.
Direction point! Direction point!
A Doctor Who Podcast Network.